Hey there, Math Peeps. This is Chad Durrell from MGT. I wanted to show you a few virtual online manipulatives that I like to use. So you can use these whether you're in a live session with students, whether you're a small group with students, or perhaps you're creating videos for your students for different lessons. So this is one that I really like. It's called mathlearningcenter.org/resources/apps. I'll put the link in the description so you can just click on that. And they have several different apps that I'd like to walk through. The first one is this fraction app, and I know some of you were asking me about those. How am I supposed to teach fractions or use manipulatives when I don't have those with me, or how can I show that? So this is a perfect way to do that. And so what we're going to do is you just open up the web app. Okay, you open up the web app and you'll see you have a toolbar here along the bottom, and we can either make fraction bars or fraction circles. So either one you'd like to use, I'll show you both. So let's go ahead and click open a fraction circle, and then this shows up. Then it asks you how many parts. So of course you'd want to click the number of parts that you want. So let's just go with 8. That's a good, nice number. And now we have our fraction circle. I can resize that if I want, but we don't need to get it very large and keep it right there. I can rotate it, but rotating a circle doesn't really do much, so we'll just keep that like that. Now we need to fill it in, and that's what these colors are down here for. So I can choose whatever color I want. So we'll start off with red, and I can literally just fill in those colors that I want. Then if I wanted to create another one, well, we're going to create another one with 8 as well, and I can move this one over to the side here. And I'll pick another color. We'll go with green. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and so if you're using Zoom, you can use your annotate function, and you can write on here, but the app itself does have some drawing tools that you can use. So you can click on those drawing tools, and it's got some pens over here where you can change the color or make straight lines, and of course the eraser. So I'm going to go ahead and click that, and you can talk to your students about this fraction, of course, is 5/8, right? And this one is 3/8. Okay. And then the nice thing about this is I can actually take this circle and overlay it on the other one so they can really see the comparison there. Now, if you are using the pen tool here, you can click on the pen tool and it'll select it off. So now I can actually use my mouse cursor again, and I can pick that one up, and I can literally just overlay it on top of the other one, and they can see that obviously 5/8 is greater than 3/8. So I can click on my marker again, and I can make that symbol, and we can talk about that. All right, it's pretty easy. Another thing that we can do here is let's use some fraction bars. So we'll put up a fraction bar, and let's do sixths this time. And of course I want to move this over here. I can stretch that out, make it larger if I want. Now, if you want to make it a little bit larger, when I create a new bar, you'll notice that the new one is now the exact same size as the old one, right? Or the one that I just made, and I'm going to go make that 6 parts as well. If I made it different, then I can see how I can compare some of those pieces, right? So if I had 6ths and 4ths, I can compare them that way, or I can make thirds, and I can talk about how 2/6 make 1/3, or I can do 10ths or 8ths or whatnot. But I'm going to keep it 6ths just for these demonstration purposes. Click OK. Now, of course, I need to fill in some of those. So let's make the first one here. Let's make it 4/8, and I'll make this one just the 1/8, I guess. Or 6. We're in 6, not 8. Excuse me. So that's 4/6 and 1/6. And then, of course, you can, however you wanted to use this, right? We could do 4/6, right, plus the 1/6, right? And then you can talk to your students about that and how we can, when we put those together, we get a total of 5/6, right? We're not here for the lesson, we're just here to show some of the tools. Now, one nice thing about this also is that you can click on labels. And so if you make a model and you ask your students, what is that? And hopefully they'll tell you the correct answer, or hopefully we're all there. And you can click labels, and so you notice how it pops up 4/6, 1/6, 3/8, 5/8, right? Or you can use a typing tool, which you can actually put in text if you want, instead of using the marker tool. Now, let's say I want to go on to something else. I want to try something new here. Well, instead of taking my eraser and just erasing everything, that kind of takes a while, right? And then, clicking off of that, and then clicking on something and clicking the trash can, I can actually come all the way over here and I can click this little round circle and it clears everything, right? So everything is gone, which is really nice. So I can start my next problem, or I can move on to another one. So that is a lot that we can do there with just those the fraction bars and the fraction circles. So really neat things that we can do there. The next thing I want to look at is the number pieces. I don't like the fact they use the number pieces. I think we are more familiar with the term base 10 blocks, right? And that's what these are. So we open up the web app again, and we can see we've got the ones, we've got the tens rods, so we've either got them vertically or horizontally, and then of course we've got the hundreds. There's another one that I'll show you later that actually has 1,000 block on it, but you can't really use it as well as this one. I actually kind of prefer this one a little bit better. And this one, of course, can be used in all level grades depending on how you wanted to use it. So let's suppose that you were working in 4th grade and you wanted to do 164 divided by 4. Okay? And so you're trying to model that for your students. So you say, okay, well, let's go ahead and model 164. So we're going to take 100 and then 6. We'll do the vertical ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. All right, and then we have the 4 ones. All right, so 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so just kind of like in real life, sometimes it does take a little while to count all those little pieces out, right? Now, here's the thing. They're really big on the screen. So if you look on your toolbar here at the bottom, you'll see that we have this little zoom button, right? It's got a minus on there right now. So when I click that, everything gets smaller. Makes it much nicer and a lot larger workspace for us, which is exactly what we are going to need. There are a couple other things here I do want to show. I can change the color of that if I wanted to. I'm just going to keep it yellow right now. I know green's also a really common one. Red obviously is not my favorite color for these for elementary school, because when they get into middle school, they're going to see those represented as negative numbers. So either we want to keep them yellow or green. You can duplicate one, so that might make it a little bit easier to do something faster. So if I had the 1, I can just click duplicate and it just pops out new ones. Okay, and so let me go ahead and trash some of those because we don't need them all. I do need to keep one of them though, don't I? There we go. I can also rotate it. Okay, so if I had pulled one of these horizontal ones out, I could rotate it to make it vertical as well. Obviously, rotating the 1s and the 100 wouldn't really do much good. So I'm going to trash that one. All right, so let's get into 164 divided by 4. So, all right, well, we're going to go and make our 4 groups. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, and of course, now the process of actually moving each of those pieces. Remember, if you're using your marker, you've got to come over and click off of that. So now I can use my mouse tool again. So I'm going to go ahead and distribute up my 1s because I can split those up. Okay, split up my 10s and split those up, right? There, 2, 3. And then all of a sudden, I can't do much more, right? So I've got to trade some of these out, right? I've got to regroup. So I'm going to take the 10s rods and I got to get 10 of them, right? In order to regroup those. So I can use my duplicate button here and make it a little bit faster. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, if I had pulled all of those off, we could line them up to show the students, right, that it is in fact the same thing. Okay, but I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this because I have my 10. Delete that, and now I can go ahead and start distributing these as well to my groups. Okay, so there's 1, 2, and you'll notice that sometimes they snap together. If I get them close enough, they'll snap together. So I can make them nice and neat there to where they're kind of all together instead of just one big group. Okay, and so let's keep going. Whoops, missed that one. there, and then one more for each group. So there, 2, 3, and the last one there. And so obviously we talk to our students and we can say, see, 164 divided by into 4 equal groups gives us, right, 10, 10, 20, 30, 41. So that'd be 41. Okay, so obviously lots of different ways that we could use this tool. This is just one way that we could use that, but lots of neat ways to do that. All right, so again, if we want to clear that out and start on a new problem, I would just use the little circle down here and click Start Over. I could also use the number line is another one that I really like in this one. And the reason I really like the number line is it's just not a normal number line. You'll notice that when I first open up the application, I have the option of whole numbers, which some of our younger grades will want to use. Fractions, that's kind of be important. Decimals, no numbers, and no ticks. Of course, if we're looking at the number line, these three are probably the choices that we would want. I can space them out a little bit further if I wanted to, right? I can make them nice and wide, or I can make them a little bit tighter. I'm actually going to go with a fraction number line. When I click that, you'll notice it gives me some options of how do I want to split that up. Halves, third, fourths, fifths, sixths, eighths, ninths, tenths, twelfths, which are all some of the very common ones that we use. I'm going to go with sixth this time. So I click that, and then I can change where I want to start at. It automatically starts at 0, but I'll want to go ahead and start it here. I do want to make it a little bit wider because I don't need all of these numbers here. So I'm going to go with some medium spacing, so that gives me from 0 all the way to 2. I can go further, and I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. Okay, so I'm going to click Done because I'm done with those settings. If I ever need to go back to it, it's right over here. It's the you can see a little number line and a little gear for the settings. So I can click that and I get back to right where I was. So if I wanted to go past 2, I'll come up here to the very top. You'll notice it has 0, and then it's kind of got this bar here that I can move, right? Okay, so that's what that does, and it moves the line over. So a couple of neat things about this particular tool is that I can do some the number jumps, right? That's kind of the big thing that we're going to need to do here, and we'll talk about how to use that. Another neat thing I can do is I can actually mask line values. So I can click that, and they're all covered up. Okay, so I can start here. Okay, and I can go, well, that's 1/6. And then, of course, I'll turn on my marker. You'll notice the markers are just very similar to the others. And so if I have 1/6, and let's say I add 5/6 to that, okay? Well, let me click out of the marker so now I have my mouse back. Well, if that's 1/6, whoops, keep that on my number line. There it goes. So I've got 1/6, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And we can figure that out, and hopefully our students will know, oh, yeah. 1 plus 5, so that gives me 6/6. And then, of course, we'd ask them what whole number does that equal? Well, that equals 1. And when we click off of here, we can see, so 1/6, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then, of course, 1, right? And we can use that number line in that way. Lots of different ways that we can use this number line for that purpose using these number jumps. Okay, so we can use the line masking if we want, or if we're trying to teach that to them, we can show it that way. Now, there is another way that we can use this number line that I thought was kind of a neat application. So I'm going to go back to my settings here, and I'm going to change it to whole numbers. Okay, now when I click whole numbers, it's going to give me the option of counting by 1s, 2s, 5s, 10s, 25s, or 100s. All right, now because I'm changing the number line completely, it is going to ask me, do you want to clear everything? Yes, if I'm going to change the number line, I clearly want to change everything. So I'm going to clear all. And I'm going to keep that medium spacing. But this time I want to start at 1,000. Okay? And so let's say I need to round, I don't know, 1,372 to the nearest hundredth. Okay, so, right, one thing we talk about with our students is benchmark fractions, or benchmark fractions. Well, we talk about those too, but we talk about benchmark numbers when rounding, excuse me. So I want to get to 1,300, right? And I'm going to round to the nearest 100 here. So I'm going to go between 1,000, right? I'm going to start there, and I got 1,100, 1,200, 1,300, 1,400, right? So I know 1,372 falls somewhere between 1,300 and 1,400, right? And that's right in the middle is what, right? 1,350. And so, of course, that's greater than that, so I'm going to round it up to 1,400, right? So lots of different ways that you could use this number line as well. It comes in it's pretty useful, I think, when you're either making instructional videos or you were doing those live Zoom lessons with your students. One more tool that I did want to show you here, one more tool I wanted to show you is if you scroll all the way down to the bottom is this partial product finder. Okay, so we need to open up the web app. And it starts off on 5 by 5. Well, let's do it a little bit bigger. It says the maximum size is 50 by 50. But let's do, I don't know, 16 by 21. Okay, so then I make, and now I have my rectangle area of 16 by 21. Okay, well, how are we going to find out how to multiply 16 times 21? Okay, well, we would talk about how we would break 16 up. Right, and we could break that up into 10 and 6. So I used this little slider over here on this side, and that broke it up. And you'll notice down at the bottom, that's changed now. This expression here, 10 times 21, that's this rectangle here. And then the 6 times 21, that's that rectangle there. But what if I want to break up 21 too? So we can break that up into, I don't know, we can do 20 and 1 if you want. It works for me. So we have our 10 by 20, our 10 by 1, our 6 by 20, and our 6 by 1. And we can talk about how the area of each of those rectangles, right, is the length and width of that particular rectangle, right? So we still don't have our answer, but obviously that's what we would want to work through. And if you were working in Zoom, whether creating that video or doing the live lesson, you could use your annotate button and you can mark all over this, not a problem. Then let's say once we finally get our answer, we need to check our answer with it. If I click over here where it says answer, I can do the eyeball, which is going to make me see it. Well, you don't quite see it yet, at least on my screen. Your screen might be different. I got to scroll down just a little bit, and there it is. But every one I hover over, you notice that it then highlights that answer. So 10 by 20, that's 200. 10 by 1 is 10. 6 by 20 is 120. 6 by 1 is 6. And then when I add all those up, I get the 336 as my answer. So I thought that was a pretty neat way. I know that's something that we teach them in the area model, and we teach them this partial product way of doing it, but this online tool I thought was pretty neat. So I know most of our classes are kind of beyond this at that point, but if this is something that you may need, whether to reinforce some skills or to go over skills, or perhaps it's something that you can use next year as well. So those are the ones that I like on this page. Another link that I am going to put down in the description is this one here. From Didax. It's got some good ones. They're not as polished as the ones from the Learning Center, but they are still pretty good. And they do have some different ones as well. So they have a base 10 block as well. This one is really more about place value, but it does have that 1,000 place as well. The other nice thing I like about this, whoops, I need to erase that, don't I? There we go, get rid of that. Is this little button down here, where it says thousandths to ones. So if I click that and click go, there it goes. I forgot to click go. Then it gives me my decimal places for 5th grade, right? So I know, or 4th grade as well. So these would be good to use for that purpose as well. They have some dice and some spinners. which is some applications that the other site didn't have. And so hopefully you can find some of these useful. If you have any questions about them, please feel free to contact me. You know my email, you know my phone number, and of course the links are in the description. So hopefully you can bookmark those and make use of them. Thanks, guys. Have a great night.